So throughout that process of your career, do you feel like each space from your youth to even going into your profession, do you feel like you were able to bring your authentic self each place? Your culture, who you were, did you see it being valued in those spaces as you were progressing throughout your life to this point?
No. Much like many corporate spaces, especially in these larger institutions, it's shunned upon to show up in your full self. You have to come with the norm, the company culture. You have to assimilate, and oftentimes we do lose our identity of who we are when we accept that assimilation journey and not kind of navigate our own pathway because we are wanting to get into a fit in a bigger picture. With my PhD scholars, we challenge that with their lived experience and helping them value who they are while they're on the journey now. Because oftentimes you're like, nope. Well, when I'll be this, or I could do this when I have my PhD or when I'm finished. And we help them see their lived experience expertise now, their leadership now. And having that moment to turn their light on is very challenging because many of them are like, nope, just keep my head down and I'll just get out. But having that opportunity to own that empowerment and own that transition, it helps fuel giving them the tools they need to avoid the imposter phenomenon. It used to be imposter syndrome, but now it's a phenomenon because it's really not a syndrome. It's all in our mind. It's a mindset thing. And so that spark when you said that, when you weren't able to show up in your full self, we see them navigating larger systems, wanting to create a change, wanting to be a part of health and well-being, but being challenged by them not being able to show up with their full self because they're in the academic culture and there's some things you just don't do.
Does that seem familiar?
Yeah, well, I was going to say it, but I'd have to say a specific academic culture. What's interesting is I've had conversations with acquaintances, friends, that there actually were, if not are, universities, and perhaps the oldest university in the world is in Timbuktu. I'm not sure about that. I think, yeah. And so we unfortunately have gotten very Eurocentric in our circumstances. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Y'all come on and be brilliant with us. Come be brilliant with us. We've changed up the format. We're going to turn it into a little circle. Yeah, we changed it for wife Shemeka Ebony, and we are I Am Brilliant collectively. We're an organization of organizations. Basically what we do is we partner and coach with different organizations, institutions to help people find their brilliance. And that brilliance isn't about intelligence. This is about finding that natural light and that natural giftings and talents that come within, and we show people how to own that as leadership in the spaces they show up in. So, we start with a simple baseline question. We ask people what makes them brilliant. So as we ask most people, have you ever been asked that question before?
Not offhand, not like that.
And so there we go. And that's where we begin with most people in our sessions, is that we identify first that most of us have never been asked about our brilliance. And then from that space, we start to open people up to the vulnerability, your story, telling people how you became, how you got to the space you are. And sometimes within our story, there's a lot of things that were put on us that weren't necessarily our own choosing. And so part of that in brilliance is about the light that comes out of you. I always equate it to the sun, right? And you wearing your bright yellow dress, right? So part of life is about how we can shine. But shining is about understanding your core. The sun shines because it knows how to heat up from its pure core. That's the physics of it all, right? So the same thing is true of us as people, is that once we know who we are, there's something about us that shines from the core, that continuously burns. And like I said, you'll start to grow into a small star, then a bigger star, to the point where eventually you start building a gravity around you because that light just keeps on coming out. And that's what we call brilliance, that luminescence, that energy. And we're hoping with this thought process, our goal is about rebooting our society. Because right now we live in a society where we're constantly upgrading our social medias, we're constantly upgrading our softwares and our different machines, but we don't take enough time to upgrade our own human consciousness. And so what we're trying to do is take that collective inventory of what does it look like when we're all shining brilliant, what does it look like when we're all able to display our cultures and where we come from, and how does that come together that if we're all living in our brilliance, how can we serve one another where everyone is served? And that's the key of what we're trying to foster in what we do with organizations, because everyone is in a stuck place right now. And after COVID, we're even more stuck and confused than ever before. And we want to bring that essence out of people. So that's kind of a quick overview for those who are in the room and those who are new to the room of who we are. We were deep diving into each person. We're going around kind of getting a sense of each of y'all's story is where we start. So if you saw the message of what we were talking about here, we were talking about how people show up in organizations. We focus on 3 core principles: access, experiences, and better practices. Some people say best practices, but we want to be better, because obviously our best hasn't been enough.
Yes.
Because there's still enough people who are still, showing the same issues, the same problems. You see it across the scale. So our goal is to get us to a better practice, but part of that is by each person feeling this validation. So with that, I would love to transition to...
Well, to be honest, I mean, we're in so much on the same page. I want to show you a side of my book. The first intro of my book is about why this star shines, which is exactly what you're talking about with the sun. But I'm going to be telling my story.
Where are you from originally?
Yeah.
I asked you the background where you
Well,
started
here's my story. I'm from Philadelphia.
Okay.
Second of 2 children. My literal nickname growing up was Shy, which is why I do what I do now, is speak, and I help people overcome whatever is holding them back from being brilliant or having value. And I was an actress for about 30 years, still am, but I call myself in recovery because I'm not doing it as much as I'm supposed to be, because this is what I'm supposed to do. I train people, I work with people, I speak with people, I help bring out their brilliance, I help bring out their value. Culturally, middle class, Philadelphian. My mom just passed. I'm going to talk about that on the stage as well. But, I was bullied from my older sister, and that's one of the other things that is part of who it is that I am, and why it is that I do what I do, and why I do it the way I do.
That's it.
So I think that's all I want to say right now, because not only do I have to get on stage, but I have to preserve my voice. So I can do.
Well, we thank you very much. That was a brilliant display. The reason why I wanted to kind of touch on some of her points, because if you read the bios, you would have seen her in it, so she had some great things. But to your main point, it's the acting part. So I have a particular love for actors. I used to work with the SAG and a lot of actors in Los Angeles many years ago. The one thing that's informed a lot of the work we do with I Am Brilliant is that once we get to that greater place of brilliance, it helps you to shape your character better.
Right.
And a lot of us, like an actor, are trying to get a script to play that perfect role that might very well change our lives. And so part of what we're trying to do is help people to write that perfect role of their life by pulling back layers and start to remodel and reposition things. So therefore the things that don't serve you can be removed, and the things that keep on allowing you to thrive can be available for you. And that's all we do with that. So
I don't know.
It's God.
Touching on
It's
all
God.
of that. Like when I
That's
like it's like you
because
guys
it's an
hear me
ether.
and I was like, oh.
But this is ether. Remember, that's why
I know,
we say it's
I
spirit.
know.
It's
And
spirit.
the other thing, I mean, what you're talking about with acting is what got me out of being shy, by acting as if I was something else. I created in my book which are 9 different personality communication styles based on the types of actors that you see, because I also used to write for the soaps, right? So you get the hero, you get the buddy, you get the whiz kid, and how, everybody speaks differently and everybody communicates differently. And one of the gifts that you can do is to understand how you communicate and understand how other people communicate, so that you can connect, because it's not all the same. There's no one style fits all. And so, knowing what your style is, and then knowing how to, what you were just saying, accentuate what works, mitigate what doesn't work.
That's it.
And I also talk about writing your own story.
Is there any association with the Enneagram and the archetypes in the Enneagram?
Enneagram?
Enneagram is...
Oh yes, I know Enneagram. It could be. I have not studied Enneagram. I've studied DISC. I've studied strength finders and all of those things, but value, yeah. I have not studied. I've read some Enneagram. So yeah, there are some. I'm sure there's overlap because actor types are also modeled on archetypes, which have been around for years, and everything is modeled on an archetype. So
That's
yeah.
it.
Powerful people's strengths. So I coach them based on their strengths. And they also do the VIA.
Yeah.
So we do
VIA.
their value. And what I have to work with them, because some PhD scholars can be very analytical and judgmental of, well, this doesn't mean me. It's kind of like if you read the horoscope and you don't like horoscopes. This isn't possibly me, but by the time we're meeting for that third time, I'm like, I actually read my report and I saw myself. But I always share with them, like, this is a language, it's a currency. It doesn't necessarily have to be the wholeness of who you are. But this is a currency and a way to express yourself. When you can't use, of course, you can use your U.S. dollars in several places, but you can't use pesos in a U.S. store. U.S. dollar is the currency in the U.S. So we look at labels and how we identify ourselves, whether it's through strengths-based work, whether it's through values. Those things help give us a language that's shared, that we can communicate and express how we want people to deal with us. My first one is relator. My strengths are relator, responsibility, command. So all of these things have to do with working and talking to people. But honestly, I am an introvert. I have to turn on, rev up, and then I got to chill out. And it really is a journey about self-awareness, so that the better we know ourselves, the more we can communicate in a whether it's a currency of expressing how you need to be treated and how you need to be handled, or how you want to work with people in groups. Those things are important, so that we don't go into group work expecting them to know how we want to do things. Especially for me, I like details. I want to know when it's starting, how long is it going to be, how many people. I want to know every aspect of that. But when you work with some people, that may make them uncomfortable, especially if they're just an activator. Just go, try it out, because I'm an activator too. I'd rather just try it and see if it worked, and if it don't, I'm failing forward. I'm going to fail, I'm going to get back up, and I'm going to try something else. So sometimes we are in conflict with ourselves in, well, I've tried this too many times and don't feel good. But sometimes people encourage us on our pathway to try things that we're not familiar with. I used to call it the Edward Scissorhands syndrome. Have you ever seen that movie? The thing about Edward Scissorhands is, like, everybody had this idea of what he was supposed to do with his hands, right? Oh, well, you should be a beautician. Come on with them nails. And I found myself in a lot of situations doing a lot of things for other people based on what they needed and not the fullness of what I had to offer. And so that Edward Scissorhands feeling in me, okay, I'm doing it. You got cut. My bad. It wasn't my fault. So I cut a lot of people. That's my fail forward. Learning how to communicate to people, learning more about myself, and then also, as I'm learning about myself, being able to communicate that in a group setting or a workplace setting or a work environment, so that other people can understand how to work with me too. And so in going through my Edward Scissorhands journey, I failed a lot trying to please people. What I got my degree in, trying to figure that out. My undergrad in psychology, I'm supposed to be a therapist. I tried that. And then I realized, I don't want to sell trying to help you. I just want to help. I don't want to do this business and marketing and promotion. Like, come on, you need me. You don't know? So being able to walk through those things, those are that's the while I'm getting naked. That was that journey, peeling back the layers of dealing with Edward Scissorhands experiences, trying some stuff out, relationships, marriages. Those things didn't work. Had to cut them off, start again. And being comfortable with having those conversations, not only with myself, but being open, so that it's kind of like, if I hurry up and get naked, there's nothing you can tell me about my nakedness that I don't already know. You can't attack my nakedness because I've already volunteered to be vulnerable. Exactly. So there was something that we used to say in church, like, don't let nobody tell your business before you do, because they're going to tell it based on their perception, and how they saw the experience. But the more comfortable we get with our nakedness and our vulnerability and transparency, it builds our strength. And also it's like, oh, what? I can be vulnerable in this way? And then it illuminates that opportunity in other people. And they're like, oh, somebody else survived that? What? There is life after divorce? That fine man over there? That's a second chance. That's a second chance relationship. Yeah. So it's a manifestation of what's possible if we keep going and keep pushing. That's why I call it fail forward fast. We're going to fail. Don't run from that, and don't allow that to be your fear. But the more we get up and keep trying, oh man, it didn't work that way. Let me turn right this time when I go around the corner. Let me turn. And the more empowered we feel doing that, the more it's normalized and more accepting. And then we give our children that permission to fail. We give our children that permission to grow and transition into becoming who they are. Mm-hmm. You know, as much as I want to protect my sons and much as I want to protect my children, they have their own testimonies. And the sooner I realize that, the quicker I got to my own peace. Because they're going to bump their head. We can't stop them from... They're falling. Us stopping them from falling and putting cushions down every time doesn't help them in the real world, right? But we do that. We do that with our relationships. We do that with our children. We do that in our work environment when we just want to keep it all calm and maintain control. But we all have our destiny. We all have our testimony. We all have our journey. And the quicker we can understand and give ourselves grace in that area, the more equipped we give ourselves permission to not only fail, but to fail and get back up, to try, to ask for help. All those things are components to help build us to be stronger people as we're getting more comfortable in our brilliance. We don't wake up and be like, oh yeah, I'm brilliant, now I'm going to save the world. It's that you come into that awareness you're brilliant, you check in, identifying what you're brilliant at, and then you find those ways to practice and exercise and set intention around your brilliance to create that sustainable change in your community.
Two that steps in the room. You've caught us in the wind. We changed up the format a little bit because we were talking with the group, telling a little bit about our background, so you kind of see a nice kind of eclectic version of all of what we do organizationally, right? So we're main organization I Am Brilliant, but we have a lot of splinter things from economic development projects like Black Girl Magic Market. We have Hip Hop Wall Street, kind of catered to the men. We're trying to help the African American community, but we also want to make sure that we're too inclusive in regards to our ability to grow our capacity in business, as well as how we do business with other people, right? And so part of that is here. So what we do is with I Am Brilliant is we're trying to reboot people in their families, reboot people in their communities, and reboot people in their companies. So let me get to know you two a little bit more. And first of all, give me your name again, sir.
Dennis Buchanan.
Dennis Buchanan, Ms. Buchanan, and your name?
Ashley Buchanan.
Okay, so y'all husband and wife?
Correct.
All right, perfect, beautiful couple. Yes, so thank you again for coming. The goal of this is about unlocking your superpower, right? Do any of you ever identify with those words, superpowers?
I'm going to say no.
Where are you guys from?
I'm from Pennsylvania, York, Pennsylvania, York County, Southeast PA.
I'm from Albuquerque, New Mexico.
So what brought you two together? How did y'all meet or where?
She's going to enjoy telling this one.
Okay. Yeah, here it is.
We met in downtown Albuquerque. He was working in Los Alamos, New Mexico, and I was born in Albuquerque.
Wow.
So we met downtown and we shared pancakes and we've been together ever since.
I love it. And what brought you to New Mexico at that time?
At that time, it was a work opportunity. I was a contractor, still am.
Okay, so
that's what
you're doing right now.
Correct.
So watch this, right? Walk this. What you did then, what you being a contractor, what you do now, was your destiny. And look what your destiny brought you.
Okay.
By following what you felt was your purpose, led you to everything that's meant for you and your frequency. And so part of what we're doing is helping people to retune, right? I look at people as tuning forks. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes when we're feeling that we're denied, it's because we've created it's like magnets, right? When you feel something's attracted to you, it's gonna find you. Mm-hmm. When you think it's even a momentary second that something isn't for you, you repulse it away from you. And as soon as you start to believe that everything that you want is for you and no one else is in competition for those things, that you start to open up to this ability and this gifting of manifestation. The way I explain it to people is in old times, in Egyptian culture and other cultures, they used to have this thing called dream walkers, right? And the dream walkers were people who believed they had the ability to not only walk through their own dreams, but other people's dreams, the pharaohs and everything. They would walk through their dreams and help them to interpret. That's why we come into dream interpretation and what dreams mean, right? Sometimes we can be in our lifetime asleep, awake, because we forgot the ability to dream. And so I ask all the time, even my children say, what'd you dream about last night? Nothing. And so I say, you didn't dream about nothing? Well, then you need to go to sleep with the mindset that you need to dream about something. Because the dream is the beginning of the imagination, which the imagination is the beginning of real intentions, and those intentions create the manifestation in real life, all the time, every time. No one can stop that superpower in you because most people don't even know they're dream walkers. So they don't know how to dream awake. So with all of that said and what you heard, I want to ask you a simple question as we started before, and I asked it kind of passingly, so you should have had some time to think about it and all this feeling. So Mr. Buchanan, the first question I'm going to ask you is, what makes you brilliant?
Brilliance, from what I'm hearing, and then also my interpretation of it, I am brilliant because I choose to try and realign my life with my own interpretation of ethics and what I believe to be ethical, moral, and then my spiritual consciousness as well. So with that said, like, I just try to, I don't know, tap into those faculties of my life daily and keep them respect them individually as well. And just in my own, like I heard the term earlier, inventory, self-inventory, to say, all right, well, are you growing? Are you challenging yourself or becoming better in each of these facets?
Okay.
So,
How old are you?
I'm 36.
Beautiful. The reason why I asked to think about, my friend here, Mr. Morgan, he gave me this card and it represents a symbol. This is an African symbol rooted around the Ashanti, the Ghanaian kind of, these empires of old. Everything I heard about how you describe yourself describes, as we were talking earlier, about archetypes, the archetype of a warrior, right? So there's a difference between a soldier and a warrior, where soldiers kind of follow orders and they're working in a regiment system. And a lot of what we have in our society is soldier-based mentality. But then there's warriors. And warriors have this code and these morals and these compasses that they start to create based on the experiences and the trainings that find them in life, right? And so what you're doing now is taking that warrior spirit and you're trying to tame it to turn into a leader, right? Because leaders that are warriors become kings. And so with the profession you're in right now, you're walking yourself into a kingship. But to find that space easily and most clearly is understanding what a king really is. And so I said to the last session prior to this, I explained to them that to be a king or even a queen is to be the appointed angels on earth. So to find your kingship and where you're going from the warriorship is when the king or the angel on earth starts thinking about how other people can get along, how other people in their communities, their families. Do you all have children?
No.
That's the next phase of goals, I'm assuming, in life.
I would like to think. I don't know. You gotta answer.
And we're gonna get to you next, Queen. We coming to you. But I'm talking to your king right now because we want him to own his kingship in the contracting field and everything that you're meant to own for your family, for your community, and for your company and those who will follow you within that. But it's about getting that warrior disciplined to know that that warrior now needs to lead. He can't no longer just take his way that he developed himself. He has to start taking on disciples. He has to start taking on trainers. I call it the sensei spirit has to wake up in you now. And when that spirit wakes up, it'll start to open up new activations in you that even your queen will respond to. And together as the queen, your job is you're a king too. The king now is to help him and help yourself, that you both are building each other up on the same facets that you're trying to protect your kingdom. And that's the key right now, is owning your power and then eventually taking everything you've developed out of your power and bring it to a greater protection so everyone who falls under that kingship can enjoy the land. And that's what we want to do with I Am Brilliant, is wake everyone up to knowing that kings aren't the person who rules everything. It's about territory. And it's about territory that you have the capacity to care for. Just like our homes or apartments or whatever, it's that ability to what you can take on. Some people want to be rich, everybody wants to be a millionaire and all this stuff. No one asks themselves how much capacity they're ready to build themselves to take on. It's the most important. And control it and then build themselves up to these greater understandings. But don't look at the king and queen as a person who everybody just follows and does what they want. But no, you're an angel whose now job is to serve everybody and make sure everybody's got provisions and taken care of. So we're going to leave that right there and let you kind of chew on that. And now
Put a pin there.
Right there.
Come back.
We'll come back. Ms. Buchanan, what makes you brilliant? Hey, that's a good answer.
Yeah. I was hoping he wasn't coming up this street. I mean, I don't know. I guess the question is, what is brilliance? What defines brilliance?
I'll let the queen give you that.
So brilliance defined, I know we may have been told it's about academic achievement or scholastic capacity, but if you break it down to thanks to Webster, Webster defines brilliance as a luminous. It's the action of a luminous. A luminous is connected to a light source. And so when we can discover our brilliance, we're reconnecting our light source to who we've been called to be. You know, and so when we can step into that and own the space, and if we take, you know, brilliance, because sometimes we're like, well, I don't know, down here in the South we call it Bible Belt, we're very humble. So calling ourselves brilliant will be haughty and kind of funky. It makes you feel weird, right? But it's the truth, because we all have it. And so if you take the word brilliance and replace it with what are you passionate about? What are you the go-to person for? What are your friends and family lean on you when they want blank, blank, blank done? Or they want to get that insight or advice, or they want that listening ear. Anything like that will be defined as what you're connecting to your brilliance. Does that help?
That does help, really. I think it's my personality and just, I'm the middle child, so I get leaned on a lot. I'm like the one that's supposed to just be there all the time when one has a problem and the other has a problem. So most of the time I'm the mediator and just, you know, the bubbly person that just kind of keep the mood up. So
Can I ask you a question? Do you like that position you're in, being the person in the middle? Because there was a thing about you in saying that did, one of the things I've learned, and we were talking in the last session, that there's something about our brilliance that makes us smile. Once you tap into it, you can't help but to smile. So if any point that anything that you feel that you're carrying, it's not your destiny if it don't make you smile. So walk through it from that perspective of your brilliance, that if the things you do, like helping those that you're in between, because you shouldn't be defined as the middle child, because that's not who you are, right? What we have to realize is each and every one of you took on his last name and y'all became this beginning kingdom that y'all are building. But there's something that there's a definition not only in your last name that you set your foundation on, that even though we may not know it, I don't know it off the top of my head, but if I looked it up, what Buchanan means is a frequency as a definition to what you guys are supposed to represent. So build from there and then take your own individual names, and there's a calling to that name. And even though we sometimes don't all know what our calling, my name is Michael. But guess what? Every Michael I ever meet or people talk about us, they talk about us all in the same way. Because there's a frequency of the name that leads to an action-based definition on what it means to be a Michael. You understand? And so for your name and what you're doing, part of discovering your brilliance when you're trying to, we ask this question, we'll ask people multiple times, right? Different points and stages, different clients will come back to, because the answer will change if you're really on the path. If you're really on your path to destiny, it's going to change, because you just open up a little bit more of your brilliance now, because no one's ever asked you that. Now you're going to go back, the habits that you do and the people who come at you are going to come at you, and then you're going to forget all about those people you met. But we're hoping that we're out here enough that one day something's going to spark you. You hear the word on TV, brilliant. And then you start thinking again, what makes me brilliant? And then something sparks again in you. Because the questioning starts the discovery process, which opens us up to our greater potential. And that's all we're opening people up, is to their greater potential. Because once we're actually in that space, productivity goes up. Relationship values go up. Everything goes up when you're truly being who you feel you're called to be. And we're trying to show it, whether we're younger or older, we all have been forced with this societal stuck of what's responsible, who's this, and we get away from our own choices. And brilliant is about putting you back in the driver's seat of your own choices. So with a frequency, and it creates an energy of expectation only in the people you share with, the people you're introduced to, because you believe it can happen. And that's the atmosphere we're trying to foster, is it can be happening. It's what's possible. We can do it. We can do anything. Oh yeah, yeah, that person here. And one thing we learn in organizations, whether youth or adults and corporate, is most of the time we ask people what makes you brilliant. People show up in rooms, people they went to work with every day. And in life, you've never been asked that question, and to be asked in an open room in front of people, and then the people start saying, I didn't know that about you, such and such. I didn't know you had that many siblings, such and such. I didn't know you had. And so we go around all day knowing someone, not knowing anything about them, right? But thinking we just